Welcome to Sweet Project Cars. Cool, trick, and affordable ways for the do-it-yourselfer and simple ways.
What are you working on today?
Well, here's the scenario. We had an issue, and it happened once before. Boomzilla wouldn't start, and we were trying to figure out what the problem was. Part of being mechanically inclined when you're working on something that you don't want to spend a lot of money on is finding out the problem. We were hoping it wasn't the HUE, which is this right here, which is what generates the fuel pressure. That's $1,000 to replace this unit right here. We were thinking maybe it was the injection pressure regulator, which is right down here. We were thinking maybe that's what it was, because it just wasn't acting like it was getting fuel. So then I started thinking about it, and we were losing in the Racor fuel filter holder right here. We were watching over if this thing sat for a long time, a week at a time or so, without being started, we'd notice the fuel would be down. So I started looking at it. The cap was a little bit loose, and of course we need to change that filter. You can tell that it's real dirty down here and clean up there, but here's the old filter that was in it. I found it in the truck, and usually we don't let them get that bad, but this one's ready for a change. And the fuel gets down below that, it can't pull it in real well because the filter's dirty down here, clean up here. So what we did was, or what I did, was I started looking at it, and I said to myself, where would be the first place? Look at this picture right here. Now on the picture where you seen it was circled, that's where the fuel pump primer went right here. It was a push button, push plunger type primer to get the air out. Well, I started looking at it, and I said to myself, somewhere along the line there's a slight leak in the pressure of the fuel. These two bolts were both pretty loose. Snugged those up. I pulled out the fuel pressure check plug, which is right here, is where you check the fuel pressure. I pulled that out. I dumped in about a half a pint of Howe's diesel treat into it. And when I did that, and I pulled the cap off here, off the Racor, and I filled it all the way up, and then I turned it over about 10 times, and I watched the fuel go down, and then I watched fuel come out of here, put the plug back in. Then I turned it over some more, filled it back up, turned it over about 5 or 6 more turns, and then it went down just a little bit. I put the cap in nice and snug, turned the key, and this is what it did. So as you can see, it fires right up within a couple of seconds. And it was kind of frustrating when you're trying to do something like this project and you run into something that could be very expensive. You're losing in your profit when you want to sell the vehicle later on. So here's what it all boils down to. What I did, and this will help you working on your cars or trucks. Look for anything that is not stock. Look for anything that has been changed from the stock setup from Caterpillar or Ford or Chevy, whatever it may be. And I looked at this and I said, that is obviously not the same color as this. And I know the primer should be on there, and it wasn't. And I said, I bet 20 bucks that those bolts were loose right there. And sure as you know what, they were both loose. I snugged them up, primed it like I showed you, hit the key, and it fired up. And I bet you I must have turned this thing over 100 times thinking it was something to do with the HUE or the pressure regulator. This one here, this valve here, we thought possibly it was, and it's an injection pressure actuator, I think, somewhere along those lines. Anyhow, we thought it was either this or this down here, and we would have spent 300 bucks to get the Cat originals on it, and it would have never been the problem. We would have thrown 300 bucks out the window because they wouldn't have gave our money back to us. So by using our noodle, using my noodle a little bit, and looking for something out of place, out of the norm, I came up with this right here. And sure as can be, it's sat for, I don't know, a day and a half now, fired right back up. But it was this right here, not normal, not a normal thing to be sitting there. It's supposed to have the plunger on it for pressurizing it, getting the air out when you change the filter and whatnot.